Hi everyone! Today I'm very excited to share my tutorial for crocheting this strawberry cake book cover. You can even use different colors to represent different flavors. This tutorial will be very detailed and I'll be holding your hand through every step. And as always, thank you so much for watching today. These are the materials that I used. And this is our plan of action. We are going to start with the base and then crochet the strawberries on top. And finally going to add the cream in different sections of our project. The first thing we need to do is learn how to create a slip knot. First, grab your yarn, then twist your yarn like so. Insert your fingers into the loop, grab the tail end of your yarn and pull through, not too tight. Insert your hook and pull tightly. And there we have our slip knot. Once we have our slip knot, we can then start to create our row of chains. First, you want to wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through the slip knot. And you can see that little V shape that represents our first chain. We're going to repeat this until we have 27 chains all together. So here was our first one, and we're going to do our second. Wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through to create our second chain. Wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through, and this is our third chain. We're going to continue this until we have 27 chains all together. Here are my 27 chains, and now we're going to start round 1. To start round 1, we're going to chain an extra chain. This is to account for the height of round 1's stitches. Then we're going to insert our hook, not in the most recent chain we made, but in the second one from our hook. So insert your hook, wrap your yarn around the hook, pull through, wrap your yarn around the hook again and pull through 2 loops. And this is our single crochet. Before we continue, I'm going to insert my stitch marker into the stitch that we just created. And we're going to continue on from there. So in the next stitch that you see here, insert your hook, wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through. Wrap your yarn around the hook again and pull through 2 loops. So here's our second single crochet, and we're going to continue this until we get to the very end of the row. So I'll demonstrate one more time. Insert your hook into the next stitch, wrap your yarn around the hook, pull through, wrap your yarn around the hook again and pull through 2 loops. We're going to continue putting single crochets in every chain that we made, and I'll meet you again towards the other end. So as you can see, I'm up to my last 3 chains before we reach the end. So let's continue. Insert your hook, wrap your yarn around, pull through, wrap your yarn around again and pull through 2 loops. We'll do the same thing for the next stitch. And for the last stitch, it's a bit different because we're going to put 4 single crochets into that one stitch. So here's our first stitch, number 2, three, and our final one in that chain. So we've just put 4 single crochets into that last chain to create a turn. Now, can you see those half V's sitting at the top of our row? In the first one that you see, we're going to insert our hook in there, wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through, wrap around again and pull through 2 loops. And we're just going to continue this down our row. You can see we're almost done. We only have a few more stitches to go. And in the very last one, we're going to put in 3 single crochets, because even in the other end we had 4 single crochets. Our very first stitch counts as 1 in this end, so it's going to end up being symmetrical with each other. And to join back into the first stitch that we have marked, we are going to first insert our hook into that first stitch, then yarn over, pull through, and then pull through that first loop through the second one. We just created a slip stitch to join our row together. And that is the end of our round 1. And now we're going to start our round 2. To do that, we can first take our stitch marker out, and we are now going to start creating a new type of stitch called a double crochet. So to start that, we need to chain twice. This is because the double crochet has a taller height, and so we need to account for that by chaining 2 instead of 1 that we did before. Then wrap your yarn around the hook, and you can see the next stitch after our 2 chains is here. You want to insert your hook into that first stitch, then yarn over and pull through, and you can see there are 3 loops on our hook right now. You then want to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, the first 2 loops, and we have 2 loops remaining on our hook. Yarn over and pull through again, so now we only have the 1 loop on our hook. And now we have successfully created our double crochet, and this is the first 2 chains that we created earlier. So now we're going to insert our stitch marker, not in that loop that's sitting on our hook, but that little V shape that you see that we just created. So it should look something like this. And we are going to put a double crochet into every one of the stitches that we created in our previous row. So I'll show you how to do the double crochet again. Wrap your yarn around the hook. You can see the next stitch is here. Insert your hook into that next stitch. Wrap your yarn around, pull through, so that there are 3 loops now. Wrap your yarn around the hook, pull through 2. Wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through 2 again. So we just created another double crochet. We're going to put 1 double crochet into every stitch, and I'll meet you towards the end of that round. So I'm nearing the end of this round, and how do you tell where to stop? So remember, this was our very first double crochet that we created, and also remember that we did 2 chains, so 1, 2 are part of the chains that we did, so we don't want to crochet into those. And the third one from this stitch marker is the base for these 2 chains, so we also don't want to crochet into that one. So that means the last one we want to be crocheting into is that one. Not this, not this, not this, but this one. I can see this arch already has our last stitch into it, so we have 1, 2, 3 left. So let's finish off. So I've just completed my last stitch of this round, and you can tell because we have here our first stitch, our 2 chains, and the stitch that the 2 chains are sitting on top of. and everything else has been crocheted into. So what I'm going to do is to finish this round off by inserting my hook into the very first stitch that we did, the one with a stitch marker in it, and wrap your yarn around, pull through, and pull through your first loop through your second loop. And there is our second round. So our rounds 2, 3, 4 and 5 are all the same, and so I'll see you after round 5. If you forget any of the steps, you can go back and re-watch how to do round 2, because it's the same for the next 3 rounds. So I'm almost at the end of round 5. I just have 2 double crochets to do, so let's complete it. So that's our second last one. And for our last one, we're going to do almost the same thing. Pull through 2. And before we do our last wraparound step, we're going to start incorporating our color change. So grab the second color yarn that you're using. I'm using white in this case. And just pop it in front of your work. Then you want to finish off the stitch with this new color yarn by wrapping your yarn around the hook and pulling through. And now we want to go back to the very first stitch that has the stitch marker in it. Insert your hook, wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through. And pull through the first loop into the second to create our slip stitch. We should have 1 loop remaining on our hook. From there, we're going to start our round 6. So to do that, we're going to first take the stitch marker out. And I'm going to chain 2, wrap your yarn around your hook, and we're just going to do double crochets throughout the row like we've been doing before. Insert your hook into the first stitch, wrap your yarn around, pull through, wrap your yarn around, pull through 2, wrap your yarn around and pull through 2 again. And we're just going to grab our stitch marker and pop it in that stitch that we just created. Now that the white part of our project is kind of established, we're just going to snip off our pink yarn. And one more thing I wanted to add is usually I like to weave in my ends as we crochet, but when I practiced this project before filming, I found that it didn't look very good and it would come undone pretty easily. So I recommend just leaving it for now and we can deal with it at the very end. So I'm going to continue my round of double crochets for round 6. And so 6 and 7 are the same. So I'll meet you again towards the end of round 7. I'm up to my last stitch of my round 7. So we're going to continue our double crochet. And right before we do that pull through 2 step again, we're going to incorporate a color change back into our base color. So position your yarn like so, wrap your new color yarn around and pull through. Now find the first stitch, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through and complete our slip stitch. And there's our successful color change. So for rows 8, 9 and 10, it'll be the same pattern with the double crochets with the pink yarn. Take your stitch marker out, chain 2, wrap your yarn around, insert back into the first stitch, wrap around, pull through, wrap around, pull through 2, wrap around, pull through 2. Putting our stitch marker back into the stitch that we just created. And just doing the same for the next 3 rounds until we get to the end of round 10. The next few rounds are pretty repetitive, so here's a diagram that shows you for the next few rounds what colors you need to use for what round. If you ever need a revision on how to do a color change or how to do a specific stitch, you can go back and rewatch those parts again. But I'll see you after I've fully completed the base. Following the pattern that was just shown, I fully completed my 21 rounds and finished my base. And now it's time to start the strawberries. This part's a little bit trickier because it involves 3 different yarns in one row, so it can be a little tricky to keep track of. But the first step is to chain twice. We're going to start 1 double crochet in that first stitch. But before you finish the stitch, we're going to color change to our red yarn. So pick up your red yarn. You can hold it in place with your thumb so it's nice and secure. And we're going to complete the stitch with this red yarn by wrapping your yarn around the hook and pulling through. Once that's done, look for the next stitch in line. Now in this one stitch, we're going to put 5 double crochets of this red yarn. So I'm going to do my first double crochet. I finished my 1 double crochet. We're going to do this 4 more times in the exact same stitch. By the time we're done, they're going to look a little bit squashed because we're squeezing them all in one little space. So once you're finished with the 5 double crochets, you're going to pull against the loop so it becomes bigger. Take your hook out and you see that first V of the 5 double crochets that we just made. Insert your hook into that stitch and insert into the loop where we left off. Pull the string a little tighter, and from here we're going to let that red yarn go. Pick up our green yarn. Position your yarn as if we were going to do a color change. Wrap your yarn around and pull it through everything on our hook. Now notice these 5 double crochets. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We're going to insert our hook between the first and second double crochet. Wrap your green yarn around the hook and bring it forward. So you don't want to make it too tight like this. Make sure there's a little bit of leeway. We're going to keep going, so looking at the next 2 double crochets, we're going to insert our hook, wrap your yarn around and pull through. So now we have 3 loops on our hook, and we're just going to do the same thing for the next. Insert your hook in between the next 2 double crochets, wrap your yarn around and pull through. Now we have 4 green loops sitting on our hook. We're going to leave it like this for now. Drop your green yarn off to the side, and we're going to pick up our white yarn again. Wrap your yarn around and pull through all 4 loops like so, which creates that strawberry shape. Now look for the next stitch in line. I can see it's here. This is the stitch right next to the strawberry that we created. Now we're going to make a double crochet into that stitch with the white yarn. And there's our first strawberry. We're going to keep repeating this pattern, but before we continue, we're going to put another full white double crochet into the next stitch. And then on the stitch after that, start another double crochet. But before we finish off, we are going to color change back to our red yarn to start the next strawberry in line. Once you have the red yarn ready, we're going to wrap it around our hook and pull through the 2 white loops. And we're going to repeat what we did before. So you can see our next stitch here. Put 5 red double crochets into that next stitch. And before we move on to the next step, we need to insert our hook into the V of the first stitch as well as the loop. Grab your green yarn, wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through like so. Now going in between these double crochets, insert your hook between the first 2 double crochets, wrap your yarn around and pull through, insert, wrap your yarn around and pull through, insert, wrap your yarn around and pull through until there's 4 loops sitting on your hook. Drop your green yarn, we're going to pick up our white yarn again, wrap your yarn around and pull through all 4 green loops. Again, we're going to look for our next stitch to put our double crochet in. So here's our second strawberry. We're going to keep going with this pattern along the edge. I'll meet you towards the end of this round and I'll show you how to finish it off. Just gonna jump in and say this is how my row is looking around halfway into it. The back does look quite messy and that's normal. And not to worry because we're gonna flip this work around and the back will end up being concealed. I'm on my last strawberry of the row, so let's do it together. I'm going to put 3 white double crochets in a row with the last one being used to color change. Then I'm putting my 5 double crochets into that one stitch. Here's my 5 double crochets all complete. Insert your hook into the first stitch in the loop. We're going to grab our green yarn, wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through. Now inserting your hook between our stitches until we have those 4 loops on our hook. We are going to find our white yarn again, wrap your yarn around and pull through all 4 loops. Double crochet into the next white stitch. And another double crochet after that. And you can see these were our 2 chains that we crocheted at the very start of this round. So we're going to skip those chains and insert our hook into the stitch right before the first strawberry starts. Wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through and complete the slip stitch. And that marks the end of our strawberry round. Once the strawberries are complete, we can chop off our red and green yarn. Next, we are going to crochet the cream all the way around the top. So the first thing to do to start the cream is to chain 4. Then we are going to yarn over twice, 1, 2. Then back to the stitch where we started off in, we're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull through. So now we have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over again and pull through the first 2 loops. Now we have 3 loops, yarn over again and pull through the next 2 loops. And finally yarn over again and pull through the last 2 loops until we only have that 1 loop remaining on our hook. So you can see our strawberry here. Look for the first white stitch after the strawberry. That's the stitch where you want to insert your hook and create a slip stitch. We're going to put another slip stitch into the next stitch, and then one more time. And now we're going to repeat the steps that we just did. So chain 4, yarn over twice, insert your hook back into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 again, and one more time, yarn over and pull through 2. Looking for the white stitch right after the strawberry, we're going to insert our hook into that stitch, yarn over and pull through, and finishing off the slip stitch. So we're going to continue this pattern all the way around. So I'm nearly back to the start and I'm slip stitching my way through until we reach the very start. We're back to the start, and so I'm going to insert my hook into one of the beginning stitches, create a slip stitch, and we're just going to cut this yarn. Use your hook to pull your yarn through and tighten it with your fingers. Alright, so let's take a look at what's going on. What I'm going to do is flip my work inside out. You can see there's a lot of loose ends, but don't worry, we're going to take care of those at the end. For now, we're going to take all our loose ends and bring them all to the other side using our crochet hook. So grab your hook, insert your hook next to those strings, and just pull them all through to the other side. Just gonna do that for each and every one. All done with that step, and it's looking very clean. What I'm gonna do next is crochet more cream around the edge of this border and around every white border that we have crocheted so far. It really elevates the look of the final product. So before we start, notice the last row of white double crochets we did for the base. And notice how every strawberry has 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets that it's sitting on top of. So this is the 4 for this one's strawberry. This is the 4 for this strawberry. The next strawberry has 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So for this strawberry here, I'm going to focus on my rightmost stitch here. Grab your yarn and put it in place. Insert your hook into that first double crochet. Yarn over and pull through. Now we're going to do something really similar to what we just did for the top part of the cream. So first chain 4. Then yarn over twice. In that same stitch, we're going to insert our hook, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops again. So remember how I said there were 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets attached to this one strawberry? We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and the one after that is where we're going to insert our hook and create a slip stitch. So there's our first frill done in this row to represent the bottom part of our cream, and we're just going to continue this pattern. We can see the next 4 double crochets below the next strawberry. So for the very first stitch attached to this strawberry, we are going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull through, then pull through again. Now we're ready to chain 4. Yarn over twice. In that same stitch, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Great! Now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches. In the one after that, insert your hook and finish it off with a slip stitch. And you can see now we've created our second frill below the strawberry. So this pattern we're going to repeat all the way around. I'm going to keep going and meet you after this row finishes. Almost at the end, we just need to do this part here, so we can be assured that it will match up pretty nicely. But on the other side, when I was passing that junction with all our other loose ends on the other side of it, I've just had to do an extra slip stitch just to match up those 4 stitches to the next strawberry. So as long as you account for that and make sure each strawberry has 4 stitches that it's sitting in the middle of, then it should end up looking quite nice and neat. And once you've made that last frill and you still have some stitches left, you can just fill it with slip stitches until you reach our first stitch. Insert your hook back into that first stitch and create a slip stitch. Now we are going to cut the yarn and pull our tail through and tighten with our fingers. Now what we can do is go in and pull through all of our yarn tails to the other side. And our top part of the cream is now all done. Now we're going to do the frills on these 3 layers of white cream. So I'll show you how to do it for the first one, and all you need to do is repeat it 2 more times to finish off this project. So again, looking at this strawberry, and you can see the stitch line sort of going down, and you can sort of see that it corresponds to these 4 stitches. To be honest, with this part it doesn't have to be too exact and aligned. We're going to be looking at that top double crochet row of the white. Now we're going to do a similar thing. So this one here is going to be our first stitch, and this is our 2, 3, and 4. And for our stitch number 1, that's where we're going to do our chain 4. Grab your yarn, yarn over and pull through. From here, we are going to chain 4. Wrap your yarn around the hook twice. Insert your hook back into the first stitch. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. And yarn over, pull through 2. Skip the next 2 stitches. Insert your hook into the next one and create a slip stitch. And you can see our first little frill of this row. We can start looking at the next 4 stitches in line. To start the next frill, we can insert our hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull through again. Chain 4. Wrap your yarn around twice. Insert your hook back into the stitch that we're working in. Wrap your yarn around, pull through, and complete the rest of this frill. And do our 3 pull throughs in a row. From here, skip our next 2 stitches, insert a hook into the next one, and create a slip stitch. So I'm going to keep repeating this pattern. We are going to repeat this all the way around the border of our work, and I'll meet you towards the very end. So you can see there's one more stitch left before we reach the start again, and obviously that's not enough space for a full frill. So we're just going to put a slip stitch into that next stitch. And now we're back to the very start. To finish off, insert your hook into that very first stitch, wrap your yarn around and pull through again. Here we're going to cut the yarn off and pull our yarn tail tight with our fingers. With these tails, you can also use your hook to bring them to the other side. Once that's been done, we have finished our next row of frills, and it's looking very cute. We are going to be doing the same thing for the next 2 portions down here. So I'll meet you once that is all complete. So I'm all done with my 3 rows of cream, and it's looking really nice. One final step we're going to do is we're going to flip our work inside out. It's your choice if you'd like to weave in these ends, but I personally would just leave them. So what I'm going to do instead is with each of these pairs of tails, I'm just going to tie them 3 times in a row. So at least we have a bit more security and we can be assured that our hard work won't just fall apart. And we can do the same for every single pair. We're pretty much done. We just need to flip our work the right side out again. And here is our finished book cover. I'm so proud of you for sticking through it and reaching the very end. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope your new project protects your books for a long time. Please subscribe if you enjoyed making this project to see more fresh ideas. See you next time.